JK died once, but he came back with memory intact and time on his side. When he woke up, the ceiling above him was the same cracked paint of his old room. His phone glowed on the bedside table. Date April 3rd, 7 days before the end. He sat up slowly, breathing unevenly. No, this isn't possible. Then his phone vibrated. A notification appeared. Congratulations. You have won P. 100,000 in the grand lottery draw. JK stared at it. At first, he didn't even react. Then he laughed, quiet, sharp, almost disbelieving. Of course, he whispered. You give me a second chance. And money, too. He didn't waste time. Not a single second. The grocery raid. By morning, JK was already outside. The city still felt normal. People argued about prices. Vendors shouted. Tricycles passed by like nothing was wrong. But JK knew. This peace was temporary. He went straight to supermarkets, then bigger wholesale grocery warehouses. He didn't shop. He collected survival. Carts filled endlessly. Hundreds of sacks of rice, canned goods stacked like bricks, instant noodles by the dozens of boxes, cooking oil, salt, sugar, dehydrated food packs, then meat. Frozen beef, pork, chicken, fish. Entire cold storage sections were cleared out under his order. Workers were confused. Sir, this is too much. JK just handed over payment. Load it all. No hesitation. He didn't care what they thought. He knew that in a few days, money wouldn't matter at all. Weapons and survival gear. After food came protection. JK visited licensed suppliers and private contacts. He bought everything he could legally acquire, and some things that pushed the limits. Handguns, shotguns, rifles, ammunition crates, hunting knives, machetes. He didn't want to fight. He wanted to never be forced to leave his shelter. He also bought bulletproof vests, gas masks, tactical flashlights, night vision equipment. Each item felt heavier than the last. Not physically, but mentally. He remembered what it was like to die unarmed. Never again. The cave transformation begins. By day 2, JK reached the location. A hidden cave deep in the mountains. Secluded. Forgotten. Perfect. But he didn't just enter it. He rebuilt it. Every section was reinforced. Steel plates lined the inner walls. Special composite material made the entire structure bulletproof against impact and forced entry. The entrance was replaced with a massive reinforced steel door with a biometric lock system. Only JK could open it. Power and water, no limits. Inside, he installed a full energy system. Above the cave, high-capacity solar panels stretched across hidden rock formations. Wind microturbines blended into the forest ridge. Inside, industrial-grade battery storage, silent electric generator backup. The cave would never go dark, never lose power. Then water. A natural underground spring ran beneath the cave. JK installed a filtration system that purified it continuously. Unlimited clean water. He tested it once. Clear, cold, endless. He smiled slightly. That's one problem gone. Food that grows itself. JK didn't rely only on stored food. Deep inside the cave, he built a controlled indoor farming system. LED grow lights lined a section of the wall. Hydroponic racks held lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, herbs, spinach. Everything was automated. Water cycles, nutrients, light timing. He even added a small controlled area for meat storage and curing systems, ensuring long-term protein supply. Food wouldn't run out, ever. Final preparations. By day 3, everything was complete. JK stood in the center of the cave. Lights glowed softly above him. The air was cool, filtered, clean. On one side, weapons. On another, food. Further in, water system. Deeper, living quarters. It wasn't a cave anymore. It was a fortress. A home, a bunker. A prison for the world outside. JK looked around slowly. Then he said quietly, "If the world ends." He turned toward the entrance. "I live here alone. No fear, no hesitation. Only certainty." 7 days remained before everything collapsed, and JK was already ready for it. The next day, JK moved fast. Money made everything easier. Within hours, he hired trucks, bought equipment, and secured supplies. Workers were confused by his requests, but money kept them quiet. "Boss, why so much canned goods?" "Emergency prep," JK replied casually. "Why solar panels?" "Going off-grid." "Why reinforced steel doors?" JK smiled. "Just trust me." The cave was deep in the mountains, hidden by trees and barely visible unless you knew where to look. Perfect. JK stood at its entrance, staring into the darkness. In 7 days, this will be the safest place on Earth. The transformation began immediately. Workers installed reinforced doors at the entrance. Solar panels were set up above ground, connected to batteries hidden inside. Inside the cave, JK divided sections. Living area. Comfortable bed, lights, ventilation. Food storage, shelves filled with canned goods, rice, water. Medical station, first aid kits, medicine, antibiotics. Armory, knives, bats, and a few licensed firearms. Security room, CCTV cameras placed outside the cave. But he didn't stop there. He added things most survivors wouldn't think about. A mini fridge, a small TV, books, even a gaming console. One worker laughed. "Sir, this looks like a vacation house, not a bunker." JK smirked. Exactly. By day 3, the cave no longer felt like a cave. It felt like a hidden luxury bunker. Cool air flowed through ventilation systems. Lights illuminated every corner. The once dark and damp space now looked clean, organized, and safe. JK walked around, inspecting everything. This is perfect. But deep inside, he knew. It wasn't enough to just hide. He needed to prepare for what was coming. That night, he sat alone, staring at the map. He marked danger zones, cities, hospitals, highways, places where infection spread the fastest. He whispered to himself, Day 7, it starts in the city. A patient, a bite, then chaos. He clenched his fists. I remember everything. By day 5, JK began training. He practiced using weapons, improved his stamina, learned how to move quietly. In his past life, he panicked. Now he adapted. Day 6, everything was ready. Supplies stocked, systems working, weapons loaded. JK stood at the cave entrance, looking at the sunset. It felt peaceful, too peaceful. Tomorrow, everything ends. He wasn't scared anymore. He was ready. JK didn't sleep that night. He just sat inside the cave, watching the monitors he had set up outside. The cameras showed the forest still calm, almost peaceful, like the world hadn't decided to die yet. But he knew better. Day 7, he whispered. It starts today. Morning came slowly, too normal. Birds still flew. Wind still moved through the trees. It almost felt like his memories were wrong. Then his phone buzzed. Breaking news. Hospital outbreak reported in the city center. Patients exhibiting violent behavior. Authorities responding. JK's jaw tightened. It's starting. He didn't move from his seat. He didn't panic. He just watched. Hours passed. More alerts came. Containment failed. Riots reported. Infections spreading rapidly. Military deployed. Then the first real footage appeared on his screen. A man stumbling in the street, foaming at the mouth, attacking anyone nearby. JK's fingers clenched the armrest. I remember this. The first infected didn't look like monsters. They looked sick, confused, human, until they weren't. By afternoon, the city was chaos. Cars crashed. Smoke rose. Sirens never stopped. And the infection spread faster than anyone could control. JK leaned back, exhaling slowly. No rescue, no help, no hero nonsense, he said to himself. He had made a rule. In his past life, helping others got him killed. Not again, not ever. By sunset, the cave's outer cameras picked up movement. A group of people appeared near the forest road. 3 of them, running, screaming. JK zoomed in. They were injured. One was limping badly. Another kept looking behind them like something was chasing them, and it was. A lone infected figure stumbled into view behind them. JK didn't react. He just watched. One of the survivors fell. The others hesitated. That hesitation cost them everything. The infected caught up. The screen shook with panic. Movement, then silence. JK turned off the monitor for that camera. Expression unchanged. Rule number 1, he muttered. No attachments. He stood up and checked the cave doors again. Locked. Reinforced. Secure. Safe. Night fell. The screams from far away echoed faintly through the mountains, carried by wind. The world outside was collapsing completely now. JK sat in the dim light of his bunker. He opened a can of food. A simple meal. No stress, no fear, just survival. Then he paused. For a brief moment, he looked at the door again. A distant part of him, something old, something from his past life, felt something. But he crushed it immediately. I can't save anyone, he said quietly. Not anymore. Outside, the world burned. Inside, JK survived, alone, and ready for whatever came next. By the second night, the world had stopped pretending to be normal. The cameras outside the cave showed no traffic. No movement. Just abandoned roads and flickering fires in the distance. Smoke hung low over the forest line like a permanent bruise on the sky. JK didn't move much anymore. He had entered a rhythm: wake, check systems, eat, scan, sleep in short bursts. Survival wasn't emotional. It was routine. A loud notification broke the silence. Emergency broadcast loop detected. Weak signal. Stay indoors. Do not engage infected individuals. Evacuation points are overwhelmed. The message repeated, glitching halfway through. JK stared at it for a moment, then muted the speaker. Too late, he said flatly. He turned to the CCTV feed again. One camera showed a road near the mountain base. A flipped vehicle burned slowly. No survivors. Another camera showed movement. JK paused. A group again. He zoomed in. 5 figures. Adults. Children. Dragging. Bags. Exhausted. One of them collapsed. To their knees, crying. They were close. Too close. They were heading toward the cave path. JK didn't react emotionally. He simply stood up and walked to the control panel. His fingers hovered over the system controls. He had built this cave for survival, not for mercy, not for second chances, not for repeating history. In his past life, hesitation killed him. This time, hesitation didn't exist. The group reached a fork in the trail. One path led deeper into the forest. The other? Toward him. JK watched as one of them pointed toward the cave direction. They had seen something. Or maybe they were just guessing. It didn't matter. He pressed a button. A small system he had installed earlier. Activated. Motion deterrent speakers hidden along the forest edge. A sharp, distorted sound echoed through the trees. Loud. Unnatural. The group froze. The children cried. The adults panicked, pulling them back. They turned away. Away from the cave. Away from him. JK watched them leave through the camera until they disappeared into the dark forest. Then he turned the monitor off. Good, he said quietly. No survivors meant no risks. No risks meant control. That night, the wind outside grew stronger. The cave entrance rattled slightly, but the steel door held firm. JK lay on his bed, eyes open, listening. Somewhere far away, an infected howl echoed through the mountains. He didn't flinch. Instead, he whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning." And for the first time since his rebirth, he allowed himself a small, cold certainty. The world outside would never be his concern again. The third day after the outbreak didn't feel like an apocalypse from inside JK's cave. It felt like watching a world slowly delete itself. The CCTV feeds flickered constantly now. Signal interference grew worse each hour, as if the atmosphere itself was rejecting technology. JK adjusted the frequency manually, eyes calm. Outside, roads that were once busy arteries of life had become empty scars. Abandoned vehicles stood at strange angles. Some still burned, even though no one was there to feed the fire. The infection wasn't just spreading, it was consuming structure. JK checked the perimeter feed. Nothing approached his cave. Not survivors, not infected, just silence. And he preferred it that way. Inside, the systems hummed steadily. Solar power stable. Water flow unlimited. Food storage intact. Ventilation clean. Everything was working exactly as planned. JK walked through the interior slowly. His footsteps echoed in the reinforced walls. Bulletproof plating lined every surface. Even the ceiling had been reinforced with layered composite shielding. No stray bullet, no collapse, no accident from outside could reach him. He stopped at the armory section. Rows of weapons were neatly arranged. Not for war, for prevention. He didn't touch them. He just looked, then moved on. On the 4th day, the first real sign of total collapse appeared on the broadcast channel. A military channel, broken, distorted, barely transmitting. City centers lost. Quarantine failed. Repeat. Containment impossible. Then static. Then screams. Then silence. JK turned it off immediately. No reaction. No shock. He already knew how it would end. In his past life, he watched governments try to hold the line. Barricades, curfews, safe zones. All of them fell. Not because they were weak, but because panic spreads faster than bullets. Later that night, something changed. One of the outer cameras detected movement again. JK leaned forward slightly. A lone figure stood near the tree line. Staggering, dragging something behind it. He zoomed in. An infected. Its body was partially decayed now. Movements erratic, head twitching unnaturally. It wasn't just hunting anymore. It was wandering, lost, but still dangerous. The infected stopped near the forest edge, directly below the cave's hidden entrance zone. It sniffed the air, paused, then turned away. JK exhaled slowly. They're adapting. That was new. In his past life, infected were aggressive but predictable, straightforward predators. This one hesitated. That meant evolution, or decay into something worse. Either way, JK didn't care. He marked the behavior on a digital log and closed it. As night fell, the cave lights dimmed into sleep mode. JK sat alone at the edge of his living area, eating quietly. Above him, the world continued collapsing without witness. But inside the cave, nothing changed. And that was exactly how JK wanted it. Let it burn, he whispered to himself. Then he leaned back and waited for the next day. By the sixth day, the world outside no longer sounded like a world at all. Even the distant echoes of chaos had faded into something heavier, an endless, suffocating silence broken only by occasional faraway crashes or faint, untraceable screams that never lasted long enough to mean anything. JK stood in front of the main CCTV wall. Most cameras still worked, but some were already dead, either destroyed or lost to power failure in distant areas. The grid was collapsing piece by piece. On the remaining feeds, cities looked like hollow skeletons. No movement, no rescue, no order, just abandonment. He switched to the mountain perimeter view. Still clear, still untouched. His cave remained invisible, perfectly hidden by terrain, trees, and the careful positioning of camouflage panels he installed days ago. JK nodded once. Good. He checked the power system. Solar, 98%. Battery storage, full reserve. Generator, standby. Water flow, stable, infinite supply confirmed. Hydroponic farm, operational. Everything was functioning exactly as designed. Not once had he needed to leave. Not once had he needed to rely on anyone. That was the difference between this life and the last one. He moved to the food section. Rows of supplies filled the storage racks, rice stacked in sealed containers, frozen meat preserved in industrial-grade freezers, canned goods organized by expiration dates. Vegetables from the hydroponic system slowly growing under controlled light. Everything calculated. Everything sufficient. In his past life, people starved within weeks. Now he could survive for years without stepping outside. JK closed the freezer. No emotion, only confirmation. That night, a new sound came from outside. Not screams, not chaos, movement. He checked the cameras. A group appeared at the lower forest path. Not many, maybe 4 or 5. They were not running this time. They were walking carefully. Too carefully. Like they had learned that noise meant death. JK watched silently. They stopped near a broken road sign. One of them pointed upward, toward the mountain. Toward him. JK's eyes narrowed slightly. But he didn't move. He didn't activate deterrence. He didn't react at all. He simply observed. One of them knelt, exhausted. Another tried to pull them forward. But then, from somewhere deeper in the forest, a sound echoed. A low, dragging growl. The group froze. JK zoomed the camera. Something moved between the trees. Not fully visible. Just shape. Just motion. Then it stepped into view. An infected, but different again. Its movements were slower, heavier, like something had changed inside it. The group panicked instantly. They ran. Not toward him. Away. JK watched them disappear into the darkness. Then the infected followed. He leaned back slightly. So it's not just spreading. He paused. It's changing. For the first time since the outbreak began, JK felt something close to curiosity. Not fear, not concern. Just calculation. He marked it in his system. Behavioral evolution confirmed. Then he closed the feed. Inside the cave, the lights dimmed automatically. The first week was ending. And outside, the world was no longer just dying. It was becoming something else entirely. But JK remained still, safe, alone. Ready? The 7th day brought no celebration, no relief, and no sense of completion. Just a quiet confirmation that the world had fully crossed into something irreversible. JK stood in front of the CCTV wall again, arms crossed. Several cameras were now dead. Not from power loss, from destruction. Something had physically reached them. He traced the last recorded footage of one of the broken units. A flicker of movement. A shadow too close. Then static. He didn't replace it. He simply adjusted coverage. Adaptation, not attachment. That was the rule. Outside, the forest had changed. At first it had been green and alive. Now it looked wrong. Branches bent in unnatural angles. Animals were gone completely. Even insects seemed absent. Silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was occupied. JK zoomed into the northern perimeter feed. Empty. Then, movement. Slow. Measured. A lone infected stepped into view. But it wasn't like the others anymore. Its posture was more stable. Less collapsing. Less random twitching. It stood still for several seconds. Just looking. Not wandering. Not searching. Observing. JK tilted his head slightly. That's new. The infected turned its head. Not toward noise, not toward movement, but upward. Directly toward the hidden cave ridge. Toward him. Even though it couldn't see him. It should not have known, but it reacted like it did. Then it left. No chase. No attack. Just departure. JK replayed the footage twice. Then once more. Something was wrong with the pattern. Not random behavior. Not instinct. Recognition. Or something close to it. He marked it again. Level 3 behavioral deviation. That night, JK tightened internal security protocols. Doors locked in sequence. Backup systems activated. Motion sensors recalibrated. Not because he was afraid. Because he refused surprises. The cave responded with mechanical precision. Lights adjusted automatically. Airflow stabilized. Power distribution balanced. Everything under control. Always under control. Around midnight, the forest feed flickered again. JK checked immediately. Another figure appeared. Different camera. Closer now. This one wasn't alone. 2 infected, standing side by side. Still, not moving, not attacking, just present, as if waiting. JK watched without blinking. They didn't approach. They didn't leave. They just stood there under the trees. Then, at the exact same moment, both tilted their heads toward the cave and froze. JK's fingers slowly tightened on the desk edge. Not fear, not panic, just focus sharpening. This is not random anymore, he muttered. For the first time, the world outside didn't feel like it was collapsing. It felt like it was looking back. He shut the monitor off. Darkness filled the cave for a second before the backup lights activated. JK sat down, silent, alone, but no longer completely unseen. After that night, JK changed his routine. Not out of fear, out of refinement. He reduced unnecessary monitoring, loops, and upgraded the AI filter on his camera system to flag only meaningful anomalies. Anything that repeated, adapted, or behaved outside expected infected patterns. And now, everything was becoming an anomaly. On the main screen, he reviewed the last 24 hours. Most footage was empty forest. But the system highlighted 3 events. Repeated stillness near the northern ridge. Coordinated movement of infected units, low frequency. A failed camera, triggered by external contact, not power loss. JK leaned forward slightly. Coordinated movement. That was the one that mattered. He replayed the first flagged clip. 2 infected moving through the forest, not rushing, not hunting. Walking with distance between them, almost like formation. That word didn't belong in this world. Formation implied memory, or learning. JK exhaled slowly. This shouldn't happen. But it did. He stood and walked to the reinforced glass observation slit near the cave entrance. It was small, protected, and angled, so nothing outside could see in. Only he could see out. The forest was still dark, still quiet, but not empty anymore. Somewhere beyond the tree line, something moved again. Not visible, just implied. A shift in shadow, a break in rhythm. JK didn't open the door. He didn't approach. He just watched. Hours passed. Then the second anomaly triggered. Northern ridge camera, motion detected. He checked immediately. This time it wasn't infected. It was worse. A cluster of them. 5. Standing in a loose semicircle. Not attacking, not wandering. Waiting. JK zoomed in. Their heads were angled slightly upward again. Same direction, same focus. Toward him. The cave, the hidden structure they should not be able to perceive. One of them stepped forward. Stopped. Then turned its head slightly as if listening. To what? There was no sound. No signal. No light. Just distance. JK's jaw tightened slightly. They're converging. Inside the cave, the systems remained perfect. Water flow stable. Power uninterrupted. Food fully sufficient. But for the first time, the perfection felt less like comfort, and more like isolation under inspection. JK checked every lock again. Manual override engaged. Internal barricades reinforced. Backup weapons re-verified. Everything still secure. But security was no longer the question. Recognition was. Something outside was not just surviving. It was becoming aware of patterns, of safe zones, of something hidden. Late that night, JK tried something new. He cut all external signals for exactly 10 minutes. No cameras transmitting. No lights outside. No electronic emissions. Complete silence. Then he restored everything. He checked the feeds immediately. At first, nothing. Then the Northern Ridge camera flickered. A single frame. Just one. An infected figure standing directly facing the camera. Too close. Too aligned. As if it had been waiting for the signal to return. JK stared at it. Longer than usual. Then he closed the system. For the first time since his rebirth, he didn't speak. He simply sat in the dark, realizing something he had refused to consider. The world outside was no longer just dying. It was learning where he was. JK didn't sleep. Not because he was afraid. Because the system wouldn't stop reporting inconsistencies. Every few minutes, a soft alert blinked on the control panel. Pattern anomaly detected. Unclassified movement behavior. External focus event confirmed. He muted none of it. He only observed. By morning, the forest cameras showed something new. A cleared path. Not physically carved like a road, but visually consistent. Like repeated movement had started forming a direction. JK zoomed in. The ground showed disturbed patterns. Not random wandering. A route. Something had been returning to the same places. Again and again, he leaned closer to the screen. This is impossible. Infected didn't organize. Infected didn't plan. Infected didn't repeat behavior with purpose. But this did. Then came the second change. A camera near the eastern slope detected sound. At first, just static distortion. Then movement. JK pulled up the feed immediately. 2 infected were standing near the edge of the trees. But they weren't alone. More appeared behind them. Then more. Not running. Not attacking. Gathering. Like something was pulling them together without physical force. JK's fingers paused over the keyboard. He didn't move for several seconds. Then he spoke quietly to himself. Something is directing them. He checked all perimeter systems. No breaches. No physical contact. No visible entry points. The cave was still sealed. Still hidden. Still protected. But for the first time, he wasn't confident it was invisible. That night, the anomaly reached a new level. The main ridge camera, previously stable, began to flicker. Then stabilized. Then showed something that made JK stop entirely. A single infected standing at the highest visible point of the forest line. Completely still, facing the cave direction. But this time, it wasn't alone. Behind it, dozens of shapes emerged from the dark. Silent. Aligned. Not chaotic. Not scattered. They formed something resembling a loose, expanding arc. Like they were surrounding an invisible center. JK zoomed out slowly. His eyes narrowed. The formation wasn't random. It was coordinated pressure. Not an attack. A positioning. For the first time, JK activated the internal defense protocol. Not weapons. Not aggression. Just readiness. Steel reinforcements engaged across inner corridors. Emergency seals locked secondary rooms. Backup systems went into full redundancy mode. The cave responded instantly. Efficient. Silent. Perfect. But JK didn't relax. Because outside, the infected arc shifted. Slightly. As if adjusting to something unseen. As if it had noticed the cave adjusting too. JK stood in the center of the bunker, surrounded by his perfect fortress. Unlimited water, infinite power, bulletproof walls, a world he had carefully designed for isolation. And yet, he whispered for the first time, "They know something is here." The lights hummed softly above him. Outside, the forest remained still, but not empty anymore. And somewhere in that silence, something was learning how to find him. The 10th day didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a countdown that had finally started answering back. JK stood in front of the main control wall, eyes scanning every feed in rotation. The system was stable. Too stable now, as if the cave itself was holding its breath. Outside cameras showed the forest frozen in unnatural stillness. No wind movement, no animal life. Even the infected were no longer wandering. They were positioned, waiting, and watching. On the Northern Ridge feed, JK saw it clearly. The formation had changed again. Before it was an arc. Now it was a semicircle. Tighter, closer, like something was compressing space around. The cave without physically moving forward. JK zoomed in. Dozens of infected stood at irregular intervals, but their spacing was no longer random. It was measured. Consistent. Intentional. He didn't speak. He only observed. Then the system triggered a new alert. Low-frequency environmental resonance detected. JK frowned slightly. He opened the sensor logs. Nothing visible. No heat signatures. No mechanical activity. But the readings were real. Something outside was producing a pattern. Not sound in the traditional sense, but pressure variations through the terrain, like coordination without communication. He tightened his grip on the console edge. This is evolving too fast. At noon, the first physical change appeared. A camera near the lower forest line showed movement. Not infected this time. Something worse. The infected were pushing objects. Debris. Branches. Stone fragments. Not building anything complex, but clearing, creating space. JK leaned forward slowly. No, they're shaping the environment. That was no longer instinct. That was adaptation with direction. Activated full external scan mode. The cave perimeter remained intact. No breaches. No damage. No direct contact. But the pressure was increasing. Not physically, psychologically. The system began flagging repeated focus events from multiple cameras at once. Every angle. Every feed. Every direction. All pointing inward, toward the cave. JK finally spoke aloud. Everything outside is converging on me. He paused, then added quietly, and it's not blind anymore. That night, the silence outside changed again. It was no longer empty. It was organized silence. JK turned off unnecessary interior lights. Not for stealth, for control. He wanted fewer reflections on the glass panels. Fewer distractions. Clear sightlines. He stood at the observation slit. The forest was dark, but not random. It felt structured, like the absence of life had been arranged. Then, a movement, far beyond the trees. A figure stepped forward. Then another. Then many, not rushing, not attacking, just assembling. The arc had closed. The semicircle was complete. JK stared at it for a long moment, then whispered, "They found the idea of me." He stepped back from the glass. For the first time since his rebirth, JK realized the truth wasn't that he survived the apocalypse. It was that something inside it had finally learned he survived too.